This review for The World Is Not Enough has spoilers. Alright, we are in week 19 of my James Bond weekly movie marathon starting on Friday, February 28th. The 19th movie of the James Bond franchise to watch is The World Is Not Enough. My rating for The World Is Not Enough is a 3 out of 5, and here's why. The World Is Not Enough originally came out in 1999. It is directed by Michael Apted. This is Pierce Brosnan's third film portraying James Bond. It also stars Sophia Marceau, Robert Carlyle, and Denise Richards. This also featured Desmond Llewellyn's final time portraying Q. In November 1999, The World Is Not Enough released. A month later, in December 1999, Desmond Llewellyn would pass away. It seems like Desmond knew he was going to retire after this movie portraying Q. In this movie, they set up Q's transition for John Cleese to replace him as Q. In this movie, his character is named R. In the prologue of The World Is Not Enough, we see James Bond in Bilbao, Spain, investigating a missing MI6 agent that got killed over money that he had to return. There is a whole action sequence as this mysterious cigar girl that was in that meeting James Bond was in assassinated the man who was going to tell was behind all of this. And then we go back to London, where James Bond returned the money to one Sir Robert King. As Robert King would approach that stack of money in a bag, it would trigger off a bomb, thus killing Robert King. With that, Bond noticed the female assassin just outside on the river, thus leading to a boat chase. It was a pretty fun and exciting boat chase. And then at the end of this boat chase, the mysterious female assassin would be able to jump off her boat as Bond targeted torpedoes at her boat. There was a hot air balloon she tries to escape in. Bond would manage to grab one of the mooring rope. That female assassin would commit suicide. As she shot one of the gas tanks, Bond would have to let go so he doesn't explode with the hot air balloon. And it leads into the title credit sequence. This title credit sequence is very well themed. Since the story themes around oil, it has a lot of oil theming to the title credit sequence. And the song's pretty decent too. I really love the song. The World Is Not Enough is performed by the rock band Garbage. You should definitely check out this video I made of my top 7 favorite James Bond songs. See if it made the list. I'll put the link in the description, and you probably saw the card pop up already. Because M had a close relationship with Robert King, it was focused to seeing who was the person that assassinated Robert King. Before that, James had to be medically approved to be back in the field after he sustained a shoulder injury from falling off of that hot air balloon in the beginning. With that, James Bond got assigned to investigate and protect Robert King's daughter, Elektra King. A little bit of history with Elektra King. She was kidnapped before, and her ransom was $5 million. Bond saw a connection with the money received in British pounds is equivalent to $5 million, the ransom money. The kidnapper of Elektra King is Renard. What described as M is that 009 shot Renard in the head. That bullet didn't kill him, it is lodged in his brain. Therefore, Renard has no senses. He can't feel pain. but that bullet is slowly killing him. When Elektra King and James Bond go to see the pipeline laid out in the mountains of Azerbaijan, they would be encountered by Parahawks. These Parahawks would start attacking them. One of the items Q gave Bond, fittingly, is a snow jacket, but with the snow jacket, in case of an avalanche, there's like this emergency ball that would surround them and protect them from an avalanche. And that was definitely utilized at the end of this action sequence. Bond would pay a visit to Russian crime syndicate Valentin Zukovsky, who was last seen in GoldenEye. Although we see Valentin Zukovsky as a capitalist man, not working in crime of sorts, somewhat. We would then see Elektra King come into that casino that is owned by Valentin and basically blow $1 billion in his casino back to him. There's still speculation on who killed Robert King, and there's this drama with King's oil pipeline, which is now owned by and managed by Elektra King. When James Bond and Elektra King so happen to have sex, Elektra King told Bond this quote: "There's no point in living if you can't feel alive," which that quote is also in the song The World Is Not Enough. That night, Bond would sneak out and investigate the people working around Elektra King. James Bond would eventually end up following one of Elektra King's security agents. There, Bond would end up in Kazakhstan at a missile decommission site. This is where we meet the other James Bond girl, Dr. Christmas Jones, who is a nuclear physicist. There, Bond would encounter Renard. There, Renard would say that same quote: "There is no point in living if you can't feel alive." That clicks a light bulb in James Bond's head that Renard may be connected with Elektra. And then there's this pretty cool action sequence. Christmas and James Bond would escape, and Renard would escape himself. What Renard stole from that facility is weapons-grade plutonium. Bond would encounter Elektra about what happened with Renard, but Bond would still turn otherwise, as Elektra would turn the argument back to him that she didn't do it, that she isn't a part of this. She would be disappointed by James Bond and request M to come and take care of her herself. So M would travel over to meet with Elektra. There we would see that somebody placed a bomb in the King pipeline. Bond and Christmas would go check it out. They would manage to take out the plutonium off of that bomb. They would manage to escape in time inside that pipeline and let the bomb explode itself, so that way they think James Bond is dead. To that, it reveals that Elektra King was behind it all. With the lead of Renard, it was Elektra King that killed her own father, that set off the bomb in her own pipeline, so that way they would sympathize for the King family and Elektra King, that she wants to monopolize, that she wants companies to use her oil pipeline. Bond would go to investigate Valentin once again at his caviar fishery in the Caspian Sea. There he would discover that $1 billion that Elektra blew to him in his casino was for a submarine. That submarine is to house that plutonium and create basically a nuclear bomb. There was an action sequence in that fishery where it was these helicopters with these saw blades that, trim trees. They would be used to attack Bond and Christmas and Valentin in that fishery. Once again, the car of choice is a BMW. This time, James Bond had the BMW Z8, but really only used one thing out of it, and that was a homing missile to shoot down one of those helicopters with the saws at the fishery, and then it got destroyed by another helicopter with the saws. Just got sawed in half. Anyways, after they survived that, they would go to Istanbul, Turkey, where M got captured by Elektra and is held captive. M would manage to use the GPS locator that Bond gave her. With that, it pinpointed the location where they are. That's why they went to Istanbul, Turkey. There we see Reynard and Elektra together. As Bond would infiltrate the lighthouse they were located in, Bond would get caught and he would endure a torture scene. It's been a while since a torture scene was depicted in a James Bond movie. The last torture scene I recall in a James Bond movie is the one in For Your Eyes Only, where him and Melina were getting dragged by a boat and they were hitting the shallow lying coral that's around the sea. It's been a while since we saw James Bond get tortured in a torture scene depicted in a movie. I mean, they came close in the last film, Tomorrow Never Dies, but it never happened. It was this throne where your arms and legs are cuffed and your neck is cuffed, and there's this bolt that when you crank the wheel, it slowly pushes the back of the neck until it will break your neck. This was a torture sequence between Elektra and James. James would end up being freed by Valentine, who also infiltrated them to get revenge on one of his men that he works for him that betrayed him, as well as try to kill Elektra, but end up using his last bullet to free James Bond from the torture device. Once Bond got freed, he would end up killing Elektra himself. Because Reynard kidnapped Christmas and brought her to the sub, he would race to get into the sub before it submerges, which he does, and he would help Christmas get out. But before they could get out, they would have to stop Reynard from detonating the nuclear bomb within the sub. It was a good final action sequence, but the final battle with Reynard was lackluster. In the end, Bond would stop Reynard. He would use a compressed air hose and put it into the tube the plutonium rod was inserted, and it will shoot and impale Reynard. And then at the end, it was the traditional James Bond making love to the Bond girl, this being Christmas. That corny line at the end of the movie, "I thought Christmas only comes once a year." The story of The World Is Not Enough is good, but some of the dialogue and especially Denise Richards' acting was not that great. Like I said, that last action sequence wasn't that amazing. I did enjoy the fact of the femme fatale as being the villain in this movie. But, you know, a lot of the action scenes, the dialogue, it was a bit corny, ridiculous for bad reasons. It's unfortunate that this movie had to be attached with its title, The World Is Not Enough, which is the family motto of Bond. We first heard about The World Is Not Enough in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where James Bond was studying genealogy in order to pose as a professor. But in the end, The World Is Not Enough is an alright movie. Next week, for my James Bond weekly movie marathon, the 20th film of the franchise is Die Another Day, Pierce Brosnan's last movie portraying James Bond. That's all for this review. Make sure to like this video, comment down below what you thought of The World Is Not Enough, subscribe to the Spellgo YouTube channel if you haven't, and as always, thank you for watching.